On this episode, we talk about the power of momentum, one pianist who is doing it exactly right, and whether or not this is my full-time job. I trimmed my beard for you. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Finish Friday, the show that helps more creative people change more lives. I am your host, Todd B. from Tennessee, and I created this show because on a scale of 1 to not dancing when Bruno Mars is playing,
don't believe me, just watch.
Creating stuff is hard, and finishing those things is often even harder. You see me rolling up my sleeves, you know I'm ready to get serious, right? I'm trying to make this show tight. The first 2 episodes were like 16 minutes right on the nose. And I love the preamble, the discussion. There will never be a script to this show because I like improv and I need to live in that I don't know what's gonna happen next. Whew. So here's what's been going on in my life. Oh, the dog went to the vet. Have I showed Francis here? No, I haven't. So this is my French Bulldog, Francis. And he is a handful. Earlier this week, he just had some sickness. I guess had some stomach issues, I don't know, but we fixed him up. He's good as new. I just put him down for a nap so that I could come and talk to you. And without further ado, I'm ready to jump into today's topic. Today's topic is on the power of momentum. Now, I gotta say, I'm a pretty black and white guy. I'm an artist, so I have my spacey moments. I'm a writer, so I often zone out and ignore the rest of the world. But for the most part, especially when I'm talking to you or when I'm writing or anyone asks for my advice, I try to keep it really practical, really black and white, these steps that you can go out and do tomorrow. But today I want to talk about a topic that's a little bit broader, right? It's not necessarily something you can see. It's not necessarily something that you can plug XYZ into a formula and then bam, momentum happens. But still, it's kind of this law of nature that I'm finding out, what with momentum building your career. I have a very specific example, surprise. Recently, I talked with a friend who is really struggling with the new year, right? He is trying to get a business started. He's trying to get those first customers, right? He's trying to find someone who needs his service to go from 0 to 1. And so I talked to this guy at the first of the year. He's down in the dumps, man. He is bummed out. He is struggling. He hates his full-time job. He's mad at his side job that it's not where he wants it. And he was just really, really down on himself. And so, you know me, I give him the pep talk, right? I give him the Todd Bryson gusto. I come in with everything I have. And, he kind of takes it and goes about his business. Flash forward to a week later, this guy is a totally different person. He's got that first customer, right? He signed her on, he started his business, signed his first customer. He's got all of these different leads going on now. And this guy is a new man. If you were to talk to him the week before his first customer and the week after his first customer, you would have thought it was 2 different people, or he had some kind of evil twin thing going on or something. Why? Because whenever you get started, whenever you have some success, you feel that inertia. An object in motion tends to stay in motion, but an object in rest tends to stay at rest. And I don't remember much else from science, and I don't even remember that as it applies to science, but I know that this much is true. Whenever you get these small wins, so many of you right now are trying to write your first novel or get something published, right? Whenever you get these small wins and you start to build that novel piece by piece by piece by piece by piece, whenever you start to write those query letters, right? One by one by one by one by one. You start to feel something within you that's not just your ordinary behavior, right? It's not just ordinary life. What happens is you are releasing the power of momentum. It's almost the end of January now, right? How many of your friends do you know that have already stopped going to the gym? I know people who have already stopped going to the gym, right? Why? Because it's hard. It's hard to get, everybody tries to make this massive life change all at once. You try to put everything in this big box and you're like, I have to do it all now. But it's no. You got to slow down. You got to say, okay, today I'm going to do one thing. Tomorrow I'm going to do one thing. The next day, I'm gonna do one thing, because the benefit of starting slow is that you build this tidal wave, right? At the ocean, you have these huge waves. They don't start like that. They start small and they build and build and build. And so some of you right now, especially since it's the first month of the year, are trying to do everything all at once. And I want to encourage you, if you're hearing my voice right now, listen to me very closely. Start small, build big. Whenever I started before the CNBC and the however many followers on Medium I've got now, I was writing one post a week. And it was agonizing to go that slow, because I lived in a 100-mile-an-hour world before that, right? Like, I wrote for the newspaper, so there's always something going on. And when I get into Medium, I literally had to pull the reins on myself to say, okay, we're gonna write one post a week. I don't care how many more you have to write. We have to pace ourselves, because I've burnt out before, and I know what that feels like. And you know what that feels like too, right? Like, you go all in and then you just burn out, and that sucks. But if you take it slow, if you start little by little by little by little, you're going to be able to build an unstoppable wave of momentum, not only for your results, but within yourself. You will be able to move from a place of, I can't do this, to, I can't not do this. And that is what happens when you embrace the power of momentum. With that, let's get into today's question of the week. This week's question of the week is sponsored, as always, by the Creative's Curse audiobook. Now, that's my book. I just released it on Audible. I think it's $5.95. It's really cheap, especially as far as an Audible book goes. You get your first one for free if you're just signing up, and it's really worth the read. I mean, if you read the paper copy, you've got the good stuff, right? Like, you got my best work. But the audio copy, I have so many issues, or so many times where I run off on this tangent or this rant or stuff that's just completely raw, like the show, right? And so you have the good information that's in the book, that's curated, that's edited, and then you also have the passion, the raw moments where I just like to bring everything extra that I'm thinking of and go off on that tangent. I'm not going to play a clip of the audiobook today. Instead, I'm just jumping straight into the question. Today's question comes from Cassia, and she asks, "Hey Todd, quick question. Do you do this full time? I have a full-time job and write on the side, and I was wondering if I could get advice. Best, Cassia." What do you think? Cassia, thank you so much for your question. Yes, I have a full-time job. And the way that I deal with that, okay, and I know, again, this is a big issue. It's no mistake I'm selecting the questions that I'm selecting, right? Because these are issues that everybody has to deal with. If you have a full-time job and write on the side, or do anything on the side, right? Most of us are dealing with some kind of full-time job to finance our side gig, or what we really care about. My advice is this: I have never for 1 minute complained or been disappointed with my full-time job. And the reason for that is, and I know it's surprising, right? Because there's all this tension. Trust me, there have been times, like, I'm gonna be completely honest here, there have been times where I have driven home from my full-time job and cried. Like, not necessarily because it was so bad, but just because I could feel so much tension between what I had to do to pay the bills, to eat, to pay for this house, to all of these bills, you know, all these things I had to take care of, and my passion, which is this right here, which is writing, which is everything else that I've got going on that I care about. And the tension between that is very real, and I know that you've felt this all the time. And for me, it's coming from a place of, actually, there are two things, right? Number one, you need that tension as an artist to drive you. What happens whenever you're in this really open-ended environment is that most of the time you have trouble deciding what to do or what you can do. When I was living in my parents' basement, I had 100% freedom to chase after all my creative dreams, but I didn't. right? Like I never did that because there was no reason, there was no pressure to. Why? I could sit in my parents' basement and play Xbox all the time. It was cool. There was no pressure from any point, right? I didn't have to have those dreams. But the second that you get in this environment where you realize how valuable your time is because you're giving 40 hours of it each week to somebody who's going to put money in your pocket to pay whatever bills, you have to make. That's when I started making the most of my writing time. I started my full-time job, and the second that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is serious. Like, not like I felt my life evaporate into nothing. I mean, years just started rolling by. I was like, I have to capture this moment. Like, I have to get in here right now and make the most of the hour and the 2 hours that I have, because it's not going to be there for long. The second thing is, I realized that I need my full-time job to make money. Like, there is absolutely no shame. Some of you are watching this video right now and you will never have a full-time career as a creative. And that's cool, because making a living as an artist is hard. Part of the point of this show is I want to remind you that you don't have to make a killing to make a living. You know, we talk all the time and we hear all the time about these artists. These artists over here, like your J.K. Rowlings, your Ernest Hemingway, your John Green, the people that are up in lights who are making plenty of money off their book reviews. And then our other picture of the artist is like way down here. It's like Susie, your friend Susie, who's been writing a novel. You're like, how's it going, Susie? Is it good? You feel like you're making progress? That's great. And Susie, doesn't make a dime. What we never talk about are the people in between these two dynamics who are making decent money off of their art, who may be doing some other things to finance their life, but you don't have to make a killing to make a living. For me, like, one of the reasons that I'm so happy now, and I can show up and do this show every day, and I can write 6 to 7 posts a week as well, is because I can't imagine my life getting much better than this. Think about that right now. Think about that viewpoint contrast with your own viewpoint of your full-time work. Like, I literally go to work happy. I come home happy. I wake up happy, because there are so little things that make me happy. I want to write, and I want to spend time with Kate. Like, those are the big two. Everything else is kind of extra. And so if you're in a place right now where you are despising your full-time job, where you're sitting there hating your full-time job because you have to get up and go to a place you hate every single day, remember, you got to start looking at it in 2 ways. It builds that tension, right? Whenever you have a full-time job, you realize how important your time really is, and you are able to then chase your other dreams with all your bills taken care of. If I didn't have a full-time job right now, and this was my full-time job, you probably wouldn't have heard of me. Do you know why? Because I would have been trying to make a buck off of you every second. But the good news is, since I have a full-time job, I'm not trying to make a buck off you every second. I'm coming up on my 400th post on Medium, and I have 1 book for $5. Like, that's my big coup. That's how I'm gonna get all my money from you. And it's just not like that, because I don't do this for the money. I don't do this because I think it's gonna make me a millionaire. I do this because I love to inspire people to create. I activate artists. That's what I do. And so, artists with a full-time job right now, go to work tomorrow and embrace the tension. Go to work tomorrow and be grateful for the dollars that you get to cover all of these little life things, so that you can then spend your other time going all in on your creative passion. And with that, let's get into today's Artist Spotlight. Today's Artist Spotlight goes on Sam Young, a YouTube pianist who all you guys are probably looking at this right now and going, oh yes, duh, how are you just now hearing about this guy? But I stumbled across Sam in his Disney piano collections. Oh my gosh, my man is such a talented musician, such a talented composer, and it's just, again, I try to highlight artists every week who are doing things like I would do them, doing things in a way where you're not handing control over to someone else of your creative career, but you're taking your talent and you're putting it in front of the world for the world to see, and then maybe you capitalize here and there. I'm looking at his website right now, right? And he does synth tutorials, or he does original compositions, or like he does all of these things to make money, But then what's in front of people is stuff like this, the Disney's piano collections, right? Stuff that he knows people want to listen to, people want to hear, and will come back into time and time again. And that fits into what I said a couple weeks ago about fiction writers. What you write about doesn't necessarily have to be what you write about to everybody. So there are topics, right? Because like one of my most popular posts is about mornings. Blah. Like that's been so overdone, the morning routine thing. I'm so over it. But I wrote a post about it a while ago and people love it. Why? Because it's something that they're all interested in. They all want to read about. So that then I can cast my net wide and come back into the middle. And this many people are going to say, I am a creative person who is in love with this beautiful man with a beard and a striped shirt, right? And that's exactly what Sam is doing. He's casting his net wide so that some people then come back and pay him money, or remember who he is, or are able to come see him when he does a concert. And that, to me, is exactly the whole game. That's the point of being on YouTube or Twitter or any of these things. If you're creative and you're looking to make money, go big and then bring people in small. That show felt tighter. I'm going to edit this and it's going to be the same length, right? Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for this show, comment down below. If you have a question you want to ask, get a shout out. Email me at todd@toddbryson.com. Once again, I'm Todd B from Tennessee, and I will talk with you soon.